And the guy who had the year of a lifetime is joining us right now. That is trainer Bruce Saunders, who campaigned the slam dunk for Horse of the Year, Rock and Roll Heaven, one of the greatest pacers ever to look through a bridle. Every trainer dreams about getting to the top of the mountain. You've been there and then some. It had to be one great ride.
It was sensational, far beyond what we had hoped. You know, at the beginning of the year, you set out, you know, your objectives and your plans, and you know what's considered to be a good year, and he certainly exceeded my expectations.
Now, we all know the story about Frank Bellino's son spotting the horse racing at Scioto Downs at baby races, and you paid a lot of money for him. But the guy who trained the horse, Ray O'Hagan, that had him at the time, you and him had a history, didn't you?
Yeah, the previous year I bought a horse from him called my old friend John for M&M Harness, longtime clients, great people. And Roy told me he was going to use that money to go to the sales and purchase a Rock and Roll Hanover colt, and when he was ready to go, he'd give me a call, and he did.
Now, when you went out and trained Rock and Roll Heaven as a 2-year-old at Scioto, we know the horse isn't very big. Did his size concern you at all?
Every horseman would rather have a horse a little bigger than a little smaller, but he was a great-looking athlete, very balanced, had a wonderful mouth, had his ears up the entire time. He had all the ingredients, and you know, the stature of a horse in May of his 2-year-old season isn't necessarily indicative of the stature he'll have at 3. So, you know, we thought he'd grow a little bit, but I've had some terrific small horses.
Now, did you think at the time you might have overpaid for him, that $300,000?
Oh, of course.
That's a lot of money.
I couldn't even do that with your money, Sam.
Well, that's for sure. You could have paid $300 with my money. Bruce, one race that you lost, you probably earned more respect than if you would have won. Much like some beach somewhere, the Meadowlands Pace. Let's roll in the start of the race here. John Campbell driving your horse, Kyle Major and Jody Jamieson from the rail. The horse was up in the bit, kind of rank. He left out of there for position, ended up in a cutthroat pace duel. Take us through your thoughts here as you watch the opening turn.
Well, early on, I thought John would race him aggressive. I really didn't think Jody would torque his horse up quite that much, because I've seen him race. When you get him started, he's a tough customer to deal with. You know, he's likes to have his way on the front end. I think our first lifetime start here was against him in an overnight, and might even been in the Berries Creek elimination. And he got loose on the lead, and he was very effective that way. But as the year went on, he lost a little bit of his mojo, and I would have thought Jody's objective would have been to try to make a little bit of money and to wind him up at 50-1, thinking that he was going to control a race. I didn't think it was a good racing strategy on his part.
Here's the finish. Your colt is dead game, but one more laugh. And the last stride gets up to beat you. That had to be a gut-wrenching stretch drive for you.
I actually allowed myself, when we got inside the tote board, to think he was going to win. When one more laugh went by, I think Rockin' Image might have been first up. When he went by him, that was kind of the incentive he needed to go forward. And like you say, Rock and Roll Heaven, Cape Payson to the wire. A great horse beat him, and that's harness racing. You
were very upset with Jody Jamieson after the race. I know he's driven for you before. Have you guys talked since then and talked it over?
Yeah, not specifically regarding that. You know, you just turn the page on those kinds of things. I'm sure in his mind he could justify what he did, and I don't care how long I reflect on it. I didn't think it was good racing strategy. So to discuss it wasn't going to accomplish much, but you know, we've talking about other things and turned the page and marched on.
Well, John Campbell did a great job filling in when Dan Dubé was injured. Dubé was back in the bike when we went to Delaware for the Little Brown Jug. And any of you out there that have never been to the Jug, make it a point to get there, because, Bruce, it's almost indescribable, the emphasis and the electricity for this race.
I couldn't agree more. I've said many times I was never a big proponent of the Jug. You know, I don't like the third heat aspect of it, the race off. I don't mind going 2 heats. A lot of people misunderstood my position. I don't mind heat racing, but to come back and go a third heat, I didn't think that's fair to the horse in today's world. But having had the Kool-Aid, the Jug Kool-Aid, it's an incomparable experience. Just to participate in it is wonderful. Those people from Ohio, they embrace the race, they embrace the horses, and they embrace the winner, and that's a unique experience in today's world of harness racing.
Straight heats in 149 and 2, and you were actually pretty emotional in the winner's circle. There was a tear in your eye.
I was. Like I say, the people made that race so special. 3 or 4 times during the course of the year, this colt turned my turned my hair on end, and that was one of the times when he won the second heat in that time that he did, because I really kind of thought he was on cruise control for the majority of the race. When he turned for home, he just hit another gear, and he looked like he was airborne to the finish line, and that was very moving for me.
Speaking of airborne, let's flash ahead to the Breeders' Crown at Pocono. Now, by the time the Breeders' Crown final went off, let's roll it in right now, guys. When it went off, it had to be like 38 or 40 degrees, and you get down to the three quarters in 19 and change.
Yeah, that was remarkable. It was a nice night up there, but as the night wore on, the temperatures dipped, and I think we were the next to the last race on the program, the last of the Breeders' Crown events, and I knew it was going to be very difficult to do anything sensational there. And our objective all year has really been just to win, and I told Danny that. And as the race came together, we were lucky we got out of the first turn without getting knocked down. Timmy moved his horse, and Danny had to give him a little room. And when one more lap cleared, I knew that he was going to be happy to turn Daniel loose with Rock and Roll Heaven. But the speed with which he paced that second turn was remarkable. And I really didn't think Danny was working that hard, even down the backstretch. When the teletimer went up in 19-4, I said, wow. And I looked in the back of the bus to see if anybody had any pace, and they didn't. So I thought he'd get home, and I saw at the top of the stretch when Danny spoke to him, he drew away again. But, what he paced from the quarter pole to the three-quarter pole, and especially around the second turn, I'd say maybe from the 3/8 to the 5/8, were remarkable numbers.
Well, he paced pretty good at Lexington, too. Let's roll in the Tattersall 603,000 on the line. You and one more lap going at it once again. This horse has always loved the Lexington surface, and he was great down there this year, too.
Yeah, he was great as a 2-year-old. That was a track record for 2-year-olds. This year, I didn't think the track played quite as quick as I've seen it in other years. The first Saturday race was a Futurity, and they had a nice cushion on it for the trotters, as they should. And the second Saturday, I thought there was quite a bit of material on it. And he worked pretty hard during the mile, and anytime one more lap is charging at you, you have to be concerned. But Rock and Roll Heaven wasn't going to be denied in any of those races out there.
6 sub-150 miles in 31 days, 2 and 49 and 2.5 mile track, 49 and 49 and 1 on a 5/8. Then at Lexington, 48 and 2 and 48 to 1 in 31 days. That's just unheard of.
I never reflected on that until we had the conversation. I was in the winner's circle and you were doing the interview, and it made an impression when you said it, and I gave it more thought. When I left the winner's circle and reflected on it, it really is remarkable.
What was the greatest moment for you during Rock and Roll Heaven's championship season?
It's hard to say. He had 3 or 4 experiences that were unparalleled for me. It was just like a crescendo. It kept getting better and better and better and better towards the end, to where I was just concerned that he could win out, dodge the sickness, the unforeseens that we can't control. Obviously, the Jug, the Breeders' Crown, were very, very important races. And for the Bellinos, winning the Messenger at home in front of their family and friends was very important to them. There were no races that weren't very satisfying.
Well, Bruce, we could talk forever, but one last question for you. Looking for adventure next year. Will we see you right back in those big stakes races?
Oh, we'll be in them. He can go fast. I don't think he has the tenacity that this horse has. I hope when he matures a little bit, he'll be a factor. I think there's 5 or 6 colts that are in front of him, but he'll be in the top 10, and hopefully he'll come back. It seems like the Rock and Roll Hanovers get better at 3, and hopefully he will too.
Bruce Saunders, great job this year with Rock and Roll Heaven. The thrill of a lifetime. You've been great with the media all year long, and you've enjoyed the ride. Congratulations on a wonderful season.
Sam, thank you very much.
Dave Brower up next. Don't go away.